Hello and welcome back to the Acceleration Netcast. In today's episode, we are not going to be doing any fancy transformations with Power Query, nor are we doing any fancy analytics with Power Pivot. We're going to do something that's pretty simple, but pretty important, and that is we're going to make a good-looking table. Because the defaults that come in Excel they're not awful-looking, but they're not great, and I think they could use some improvement. And really, after you spend all this time setting up these big fancy models, if your presentation tables don't look good, that it gets in the way of your data, and that's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to have nice, clean tables that bring the data forward, that make the data very accessible to decision makers and analysts. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the default, and I'm going to do Control. I'm going to click on somewhere in this contiguous range. I'm going to hit Control T to create a table. My table does have header, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And this is what you start off with by default, and it's not awful looking. It's certainly better than nothing at all, but I would argue it's actually, there's a lot of room for improvement. There's way too much color saturation. There's a lot of sort of elements that sort of are redundant, like you've got row banding here, and you've got lines. You've also got vertical lines, which are totally unnecessary. It's not bad looking. It's visually appealing. The problem is a lot of the visual elements in it draw attention towards the table itself rather than the data in the table, which is the goal of good table design. So the first thing I'm going to do, anytime I've got a sheet that is sort of a dining room rather than a kitchen sheet, I'm going to remove the borders on the cells here, and that's Alt WVG, which is view and grid lines, to remove the grid lines. Okay, so that's a good start. Now we're on track to creating a good data table. And so how do we do it? Well, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to create a style. I'm going to create a new style. So you can't see it down here in the bottom, but down below dark there's a new table style. I'm going to click on it. All right, I'm just going to call this simple and screen for right now. We're going to optimize this for the screen rather than printing. If you were to do printing, you do things a little differently, but pretty close. So let's start off. I'm going to click on whole table, and let's start off with the fill. Some people would use no color. That's actually preferable than something like a dark gray. No color is way better than that. What's even better, I think, is just a little tiny hint of color. So I'm going to go into more colors. I'm going to go to custom. I'm going to change my color model from RGB to HSL, and so this is sort of the type of color on the rainbow. This is how gray it is, and since it's 0, it's totally gray. So we're only dealing in shades of gray. So 255 is pure white, 0 is pure black, and all the other numbers are different shades of gray. So I think, what did I settle on? I'm going to bring this down to 252. I think that looked pretty nice. And I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to head over here to border. I'm going to start by just clearing everything to begin with. So we're going to change the color. If you can't remember this video, this color here tends to be a little bit too light and hard to see. This color is a little too dark. So the idea is you want grid lines that are visible when you want to see them and disappear when you don't want to see them. So I guess if you don't know what to do, this one is maybe a little bit better. If grid lines aren't too important, you could choose this guy. I'm actually going to choose neither. I'm going to go to more colors, custom. Again, change the color model from RGB to HSL. So we want saturation down at 0, so we're only dealing in shades of gray. And we're going to dial in a line value of 237 for luminance. 237. So there's our color right there. I like that. You could probably go a little up and a little down. That's sort of seasoned to taste, but I think that's a pretty good grayscale to work with for these guidelines. So what a lot of people will try and do is do inside and outside. So they'll get that and that. So you have lines all the way around, as well as horizontal lines and vertical lines. That's not what you want. What you really want, you do want the outlines. You also want the horizontal lines, but you don't want the vertical lines, because if you look over here, the text itself is going to create that vertical line for you. The alignment in the numbers and the data will create it for you. So don't add it over here because it's a redundant element. Okay, finally I'm going to go over here to font. On modern screens, dark is generally too high contrast. It doesn't not work. It's just unnecessarily dark. If you lighten it a little bit, it'll be way easier on the eyes. So let's see, which color did I pick right here? I think I chose that guy right there for text color. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now I'm going to go over here to the header row. I'm going to click Format. So for the color, for the fill here, I actually do want white specifically. So we're going to have no color up there. It's just going to be in the body. For the border, I'm going to click on None again to disable everything. And I found, you could sort of, again, go in and dial in your own HSL value, but I found this middle gray right here in the first column to work pretty well. So I'm going to click on that, click down there, click OK. And I'm going to click OK. If you'll notice, nothing changed up here. That's because we've created the style, but we haven't applied it. So I'm going to go up here, click down, and let's see, I think this is the style that I came up with. Now, it's not perfect yet. There's a couple of things we want to do. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and hit Spacebar to select the entire body. Then continue holding down Control and Shift and hit Spacebar again to select the entire table. The font's pretty good. If your font, I think by default it's Calibri, C-A-L. This is what it normally looks like in Excel. That looks okay. I actually prefer Verdana for screens, so I'm going to click on Verdana. But font size 11 is way too big. Let's bring the font size down to, say, 9. Generally, people think that if you increase the font size, it'll be clearer. Generally, the opposite is true. You want the font size small, but readable. So you want to basically make it as small as you can get away with and still have it be quite legible. And it makes for an easier table to look at and read. Okay, there's a few other things that we're going to do. So for text, generally you want it aligned to the left. Which we've already got here. That looks pretty good. For numeric data, you want it aligned to the right. Those are the defaults. Now, if you notice up here, the header is not aligned there. I'm going to align it, and then we're going to have this opposite problem where that thing is right there. So I'm going to go up here to Design and click on Disable Filter buttons, because if you don't need them, you should just get rid of them. They're distractions. Okay, same deal. Age over here. The numbers are aligned to the right, which is perfect. Numerics should be aligned to the right. But the header is aligned to the left, so we want to get that correct. Align that to the right. So that way we create this nice even line, just using the text itself. Finally, here for state, this will work okay. I generally find with things that are like all cap codes, that are 4 digits or less, align to the left will work okay. I actually think aligning middle looks pretty darn good, but either one works just fine. Okay, well, that's pretty good. Now, if we want to apply it to another table, we're just going to go over here. We're going to hit Control-T to turn it into a table. Click OK. Now we can do a very brief compare and contrast as to why I think this looks a little bit better. Notice how much more the data and the text pops out in this one than this one. Over here on the right, the color sort of pops out a lot, and these headers pop out a lot. But over here, it's nice, it's clean, it's simple. And if I were to say, I don't know, let's highlight this with a nice color like that. Suddenly, it's very noticeable, as opposed to here, where if I try and highlight anything, it's just going to fall. It's just going to disappear in this sea of color. So I'm going to do Control-Z to undo that. Notice that the vertical grid lines are totally unnecessary. The vertical grid lines are essentially created by the text, so having additional ones is not needed. The horizontal grid lines should be just barely visible. If you can't see them at all, you should darken them. If you can see them really well, you should probably lighten them, because the idea is that you want to be able to ignore them until you see a value, and then once you concentrate, you could say, oh, there they are, and then go track over to the other value that you want. All right, so let's click over here, and let's apply this. Click OK. There we go. I'm going to turn off the filter buttons because I don't think we need them for this. I'm going to come up here, let's see, somewhere up here, let's see if I can get this right. If you get it just right, you can not have to hold down Control-Shift, and I can't get it right, so I'm going to do it the easy way. Click on there, hold down Control and Shift, hit Spacebar to select the entire body, hit Spacebar again to select the entire thing, Home, let's bring the font size down to 9, let's see, I'm going to click up here and align to the right, because in this case it's, oops, I have to click twice. Align to the right because this is numeric, and that's correct. So for this guy, we're going to align. The alignment is currently correct. What I'm going to do, select all that, is I'm going to increase the indent so we've got a little more space between this stuff here and this stuff over here. Okay, this code, aligning left, is perfectly fine. I think it looks just a little bit better. I think it looks just a little bit, just a little bit better if we align center. And by the way, it helps if you spell things correctly, numeric. The alignment here for the data is fine, but for the header, we want to align to the right. Okay, there you go. Now you've got some nice, clean-looking data. If you notice, the background color of the table is barely visible, but it's there, so it's nice and easy to see where tables start and end. But none of the effects on the table are distracting. What's very visible is the data, which is exactly what you want. Okay, well, I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.